What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of. So, Jacob, did you know we only have one episode left of The Last of Us?
Yeah, it's sad to see the season come and go. It's one of the things I've really enjoyed watching every week. Let's be honest though, it's been a really fun show to review, so I've had a really good time. I hate to see it go.
Yeah, I'm just glad if they didn't do like a Tulsa King where they don't tell you anything but the season finale. So, and when I saw that this only had 9 episodes, I was like, okay, at least they told us there's a season finale of this show. So let's get into this episode. It starts off with a man reading a Bible passage to a group of people. But the whole time you're not really for sure who this guy is, and he sounds kind of sinister. But later we find out his name is David, and he's the leader of this group, and he's also a preacher.
Jesus, what kind of a preacher are you?
Which I think the whole preacher thing is just kind of like a form of control for him. So before we cut to like Ellie and Joel, we get another little scene with David and his buddy James. And he's talking to him about if he's still 100% into the plan. And I had no idea what plan they're talking about, but he did mention something about being low on food. But that did not prepare me for what we see this episode.
Every cult has to have, something to lead their people by, something to keep their people hooked on, to kind of guide them. And that's why you see religion as a, number one thing for that. I knew something was up right away. Why are these people so into religion after what is happening in their world? And David also is giving a weird vibe. It just doesn't add up. At this point, it's almost too much of a cult. I'm not a fan. And the difference between Jackson and this place, Jackson is doing well on running itself on a communist system, while this group is struggling. And I really feel like a main factor of that is their religion. It goes historically to show that most states that run off of strictly religion tend to fail. And I really feel like this show highlights that.
Yeah, I honestly don't trust the town of Jackson, but I would much rather live in that town compared to the town that David runs. 100%.
I don't trust anyone, but if I was living in this time period, you got to give credit where credit's due. Communist or not, Jackson has a better system than they do. David did not prepare them for winter like he should have, and I mean, he's just a bad leader all the way around, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's definitely a bad leader. Him not preparing, having the food that they need to survive the winter, that shows how bad of a leader he really is. But let's go ahead and cut back to Ellie and Joel. Ellie's going out to try to procure some food, and what do you know? She shoots a deer. Now, I may be incorrect, but if I remember right, in the game, she used a bow. But in the show, she uses her rifle. But when she shoots the deer, she runs into David and James. At this point, they strike a little deal. She gets some medicine for Joel, and they get half the deer. And this is where Ellie gets into a little pickle.
She handled herself very well in this situation, considering how young she is. When she is talking to David while waiting to get medicine, this scene is important to understand how weird David is and how he is not to be trusted, even though he puts on a nice, friendly face. Ellie runs back to Joel after getting the meds and wings it in terms of getting the medicine in Joel's system. My hat is off to Ellie. She's doing a great job, especially for being scared and confused and feeling alone like she is. I mean, most people that age would not be able to handle it.
Yeah, that scene where she's with Joel and she's like, Joel, where do I inject this at? Joel, where do I inject this at? And she just puts it right into his wound. It made me like grimace because it looked so painful because that needle was so big.
That's what she said.
Michael, please. Please.
I honestly don't think that Joel felt it because I feel like he was in so much pain that it was almost numb in that area. Like the infection, when an affected area is too infected, it's almost a relief when you do something like that because the pain is just so severe.
Plus, he was passed out also, so it's probably a good chance he didn't feel it. But the scene with Ellie and David together, and where David slowly drops the ball about him sending a group of guys out for supplies, and only all of them come back besides one, and they tell a little story about a crazy guy and a little girl, and he says all this straight to Ellie in like the creepiest way imaginable, and this is when you know, oh crap, he is not a good guy. Is like the worst guy, and she's in the worst possible situation right now. But that whole scene was taken straight from the game. I mean, the way the actor that plays David captures that whole creepiness factor. Man, he did it just like from the game. Well done. I give him props.
Yeah, I feel like Ellie played her cards right there. I don't think that she could have done anything else differently. I feel like if she would have killed David right then and there while she was waiting on the medicine, then they would have killed her. So I feel like she definitely played her cards right. Now, as for the as for the character David, I think he does a great job capturing the character that he is playing. Now, the scene where they come after Ellie and Ellie tries to lead them away from Joel was super smart on her part. Ellie is just doing a great job this episode, keeping a level head and giving it her all. That being said, I was really hoping Joel would get some strength back, enough to defend himself. I mean, this whole scene, I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I was just like, what's going to happen? Please, Joel, you got this, buddy. You can do it.
So yeah, Joe was like he barely had enough strength to defend himself. If it wasn't for Ellie leaving that knife for him, to defend himself, then I don't think he would have made it out of there alive. So moving on to the whole dinner scene, with David, that completely caught me off guard. When they're preparing for a meal and James brings some meat in there, he says it's venison because that chick said, "Hey, well, what kind of meat is this?" "Oh, it's just venison," and I thought it was venison because they caught that deer earlier that Ellie gave him half of, and I didn't realize they haven't brought it back yet. I didn't realize that. So whenever they're eating, and then David brings that deer in, and that's when I was like, "Oh, what was that meat that he brought in? That wasn't venison." That's when it dawned on me what they were eating. I was like, "Oh snap! Okay, I see what's going on here," because I completely forgot what happened in the game, like at this point. But that right there brought it all back.
It's wild that they are lying to everyone, saying that they're eating deer when that is not the case. This really brought back Donner Party vibes for me. Now, Donner Party, they had to do what they had to do. They were in a much worse spot than these guys. In my opinion, these guys are just lazy.
Yeah, this is all David's fault. He's the way he leads. He's a lazy leader. That's pretty much what he is. But we see where David took Ellie, and this whole scene plays out just like in the game. It's like almost word for word. It's crazy. So, or it's almost word for word. It's a little bit different. But where Ellie in a show sees an ear and a finger on the floor, in the game she sees like a whole torso that they're cutting up. That's where she realizes, hey, these people are cannibals. And then she realized what the situation she's in. And also David doing the whole creep factor thing with Ellie, and then Ellie snapping his finger. That's like boom. I love it. Scene from the game. I thought this whole scene was badass. I thought they was well played, well acted, and Ellie and David, their chemistry together was creepy and good. I really enjoyed it. It was probably, I think, the best scene of this episode.
I was super into this while watching this episode. I was like, Ellie, show no mercy. Don't buy into his bullcrap. And she held her ground like a champion. I loved it. I mean, the Oscar goes to Ellie for being such a badass. It was brilliant of her to stall them with her saying David is infected, giving her just enough time to snag that butcher's knife and take out David's buddy. My question is David the only pedo here? Because, I don't know. It doesn't really show you how everything works within their society, but it definitely leaves some questions to be asked. There's a lot to unpack here.
So the game group is kind of the same way as they are in the show, but yeah, I agree. The champion belt definitely goes to Ellie this episode. I mean, the way she took out David, damn, she just dude, that whole scene was so brutal. Like I was sit there in awe with my mouth open. Like the way she took him out was like pretty rough. But after that scene, or even like around that scene, we get another really brutal scene, which reminded me of, I think it's the third or no fourth season of The Walking Dead when they run into the cannibals and that whole scene where they see everyone hanging in a meat locker, just like how Joel sees these bodies hanging in a meat or in like a not a meat locker but similar with their decapitated hanging upside down. That whole scene, I was like, oh wow, that was not from the game, and that was brutal. That was way brutal. But at the very end, whenever she finally kills David, and then he shows up. Did you notice what he said to her? He called her baby girl, just like what he did, or like what he says to his daughter in the first episode. Calls her.
It's okay, baby girl.
I thought that was pretty clever. I almost didn't catch it. If I wouldn't have probably watched the first couple episodes again, then I probably wouldn't have caught that. But that was a good little throwback of seeing how attached he's become to Ellie.
Rightfully so. She just saved his life. And also to take on the whole David scene with Ellie, when I was watching it, I was just like, man, that's going to do a number on Ellie. Like, she's already not the same, but she's really not going to be the same after this. So, I just.
Oh, yeah.
It's tough.
She just went through something traumatic.
Tough.
She just had a couple things that happened to her that she didn't think could happen to her, and they almost did. Shows how brutal this world can be, not just from the affected, but from people like David. Anyways, this is our thoughts of episode 8 of Last of Us. I thought it was a really good adaptation of the game. It was pretty close to the source material, and I really liked it. And I cannot believe we only have one episode left.
Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite episodes this season. I know I've said that before, but God, this episode was really good.
Yeah, I agree. Probably one of my favorite episodes of the season.
I am sad and at the same time super excited for the next episode because I know the next episode is going to be so good, but I know that is it, and they're going to leave us on a cliffhanger because they hate us.
Well, yeah, I'm curious to see if they complete the first game or if they go into the next season with the second game. So we'll see. We'll see next week.
We'll see, but my money is that they're not going to end it with a game right here. So
I hope not. But anyways, that is our review, and let us know in the comments of what you thought of this episode, and peace out.